Hi, my name is Gabriel Fairweather. I'm at the age of 45, and I want to share this moment to you with the dreams I've been having. I'm not proclaiming to be a prophet. I'm just an average guy who loves people, who loves to dance at the time when I was young, and enjoy my kids. So I really never had quote unquote success in this world. But however, I did have a chance to dance with KML for a little bit, and that was fun. I also met many stars and artists around my age, as well as I was a little younger, being a teenager and growing up to be an adult. But anyways, to make it short, this is probably about maybe, I'll say close to maybe 3 to maybe 5 dreams. But I'll just say 3 for right now that I can quote unquote remember in my mind. My very first dream started when I was around 27 years old. I had a son. His name was Kyle. He's my firstborn. However, in the dream, as I was lying in my bed, I woke up in my dream. I had called a cab, and the cab came and picked me up. However, as I was driving in this cab going down the street, the scenery had changed, and it changed into a farm. From there, on my right hand side, I looked at this really huge house. And so I told myself, I said, wow, I really want to see what this house looks like. So I told the cab driver to stop, in which he did. And as I was walking up towards the house, I heard my son started crying, "Daddy." So from there, I ran to the house and tried to find my son. And there he was, lying in the middle of the floor of this house, happy to see me. However, there was another gentleman that was there, that was present at the time in the dream, standing over my son. And he looked at me and told me specifically, "You owe me something. I want my money in full. I want you to pay me back." And I told the individual, I says, "Sir, I don't know what I owe you. I never borrowed money from you. I don't know who you are." And I said, "I'm sorry, but," I said, please, don't hurt my son. I want my son back. Please let me have my son," I told the gentleman. And the gentleman said, "No." He said, "You need to leave this house and go away and come back and pay me back in full." So humbly I accepted the request, and I wasn't like wanting to beat the individual up, because I saw that my son was really not in harm. He was just crying out to me, asking me to, get him from this gentleman. So I left the house, ran back to the cab, and told the cab, I said, "Please, bring me back to my house so I can find out and see what I need to do to get my son back." And so as I came to the house, I couldn't find anything. I then jumped back into the cab and asked the cab driver to please bring me to the place where I was at, and he did. And I ran again up to the door. I went inside, and there's my son again, still laying in the middle of the floor. And the gentleman still had, was still looking over him. But at this time, the gentleman says, "Okay, you haven't gave me any kind of payback, and I see that, you don't know who you're talking to." And so basically, he grabbed my son. When he grabbed my son, I was kind of like in awe, like, "Why are you grabbing my son? Why are you taking my son in your arms?" And he didn't say anything. And so I heard a noise behind me, and as I looked towards me, I couldn't see anything, but I know it startled me, at the time. And as I turned back around to look at my son and this gentleman, there I saw my son and this gentleman going up into the sky. The gentleman had my son in his arms, and he was going up into the sky. And so I ran out the door to look up. And again, I see my son just going way up into the sky. And that's where my first dream ended. So, and this dream basically, it started off to the point where I was like flying in the sky. And who doesn't like and who does not want to fly, I think that's the coolest thing that individual could do is just, put on a cape or whatever it is and just jump and there he is, flying in the sky. But however, seriously, in this dream, I came to this huge concert, and it was a show of many talents. And strangely, as I was sitting in the crowd, there was a lot of Caucasians around me, and I was the only black man there, and there was a black woman there, like sitting behind me. So I turned around and said hi to the lady as well as the person who was with her on the side. And I turned back around to look in front of me to look at this really nice show that I was looking at. The show basically was a lot of people jumping on tambourines. They had a dog show in there, and so they had all these really unique dogs, doing all kinds of tricks and things like that. And it was kind of interesting, for me to sit there and see this kind of stuff. And so back in my mind, I'm thinking like, why am I having this dream? Because I'm not really into like dogs. I love cats, but strangely, why am I dreaming about these dogs and these people here? So, however, after the dogs had started, another group of people came up, and this was kind of cool because these people would just sit there and tell you, a story of what's going on. And they had other people coming in on the left-hand side of the show, and, they would walk in as the person was talking. They would walk in and do whatever that person was talking about. They would outlive or ad-lib what that person was talking about. However, I looked towards the left-hand side of me, and I saw this huge city. It had so many people, I couldn't even count the number of people that it had. So immediately I left the show. Then I kind of like jumped up and flew over towards the city towards my left. And as I was looking down and looking all around, it was kind of interesting because when I came to the city, or rather at first when I saw the city, I saw like many people. And then as I came towards the city, all the people disappeared. And I was wondering like, why is that? And so when I jumped down, or rather when I came down and landed on the ground, I saw all these huge black statues, and these statues looked like people that were standing guard of the city because they didn't want no one coming into the city. So from there, I was kind of like puzzled about, man, why again did these people leave? And so after a while, I started looking around, and then finally, I heard people talking, and in this one building. And this building was so big that it held all these people in this one building. So as I opened up the door, everybody looked at me, and they couldn't recognize me. They didn't know who I was. I didn't know who they were, you know. So, and they were just talking to this guy on the stage, you know, and this guy was talking to them. And you could see the people really being happy and enjoy, you know, of this one person that was on the stage. So from there, I had left that building to go to another building, because in that building I heard people singing. And so that kind of caught my attention, because I love music. So I went over there. And when I went over there, they were quiet. And I was wondering, like, man, they were singing at first, and why were they silent? And so here comes the strange part of the dream. So what happened is that once I spoke or said something, they would repeat every single thing I said. And I'm like, why is this, you know? And then as I spoke to another person, they would repeat the same thing I said towards that one person, or vice versa. On the other part, I saw this one kid, and this one kid was so sick, you know. I mean, I felt really sorry for the kid, and it was a Caucasian kid, you know. And so I kind of like looked at the kid, and I was wondering, I said, little boy, I said, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you so sick? You know, he didn't say nothing. He just looked at me, you know, started squirming a little bit, and I saw tears in his eyes. And so I said, you know what, man? And so I grabbed the kid, and I told the kid, I said, hey, I'll do whatever I can do, you know, to make sure you're doing okay, you know. I says, you know, to me, it just seems like you need someone to love you and to take care of you. And so I did. Once I did that, the kid started getting well. And then everybody started clapping, you know, and really being happy about what I've done. And so we all started singing together. So I was the one who basically introduced the song to the people. So every time I would say something, they would say something. If I sung a certain verse, they will sing that certain verse, and vice versa. After that, the scenery had changed, and it came to a point where I was at war. And this was a scary part, because I'd never been to war. I was in the military, and I was going to end up going to the Navy. But at that time, you know, there was no war at all. So the only thing I held was a gun in the Navy, because that was part of the training that we had. However, we were all at war in my dream, you know, fighting off these crazy people. And these people had no faces. So it was kind of, you know, scary the way to look at somebody and you don't see their face. You're like, wow, what's going on here, you know? So at the war, and at the time we were fighting these people, they were mocking me, you know, calling me all kinds of names and things like that. So from there, as the battle was getting more intense, you know, it looked like we were winning. And then finally, you know, it stopped. And I looked at all the people that was there with me on my side. And I looked down, and I see all these dead people. All these dead people were just totally just, you know, deliberated. I mean, just destroyed. And they rose back up, you know. And then from there, when they rose back up, I kind of stepped back, and they were giving me thanks. And I was like, why are you thanking me? You know, why are you thanking me for the fact that, you know, here I am, you know, shooting you guys, you know, and all this other stuff, you know, and we were all at war. And they said, well, you helped us to find peace. And so from there, that's when that dream ended. Another dream I had basically was I was in a city. In the city, basically, what happened is that the city was being overtaken by some individuals who I couldn't recognize. I came to the end of the city, and once I reached the end of the city, there was these two people on my left and on my right. There were two women, one black, one white. And they told me, you can't go back into the city. The reason why is because the city's being overtaken. If you go back to the city, you're gonna be killed. And I don't think you want to die for those reasons of what happened, towards this city. So meanwhile, as I was sitting there talking to these two ladies, I felt myself like lifting up to the sky, and it kind of scared me because I didn't want to go up to the sky. I wanted to go back down and try to find my family, because my family wasn't with me, and it scared me, and I was so scared that I was reaching down so hard. The harder I reached to get down to the city, the faster I went up to the sky. And so finally I decided, I was like, man, you know what? I just need to stop this. I see I'm not going to win. So I just gave in, and I said, whatever happens is going to happen, And so as soon as I said that, my whole body turned 180 degrees. So as I was going up, I was facing the direction as I was going. So from there, two people again were on my side, and these two people were the same two people that were down on the ground where I was at. The black girl was on my right, and the white Caucasian girl was on my left. And I felt a sense of peace because they were talking to me, and they were telling me, you need not to be afraid. You need to accept this, so that way you can see what you need to do, in the future. And I'm like, excuse me, in the future? What are you talking about? I said, I don't know about that, but I'll follow your way. I already, told myself I just needed this, take this direction and let it happen. So meanwhile, as I was going up further and further into the sky, I came to the conclusion of like, what's going on here? What am I supposed to see? So when I said that, the scenery in front of me changed, and as I was coming up, I kind of like landed on a pillow, like a soft ground, and it was pretty, it was like, wow, this is awesome, and because I couldn't even think about, the scenery that I saw, it was so beautiful, I almost started to cry. That's how pretty the scenery was. They had mountains, they had lakes, they had this trail that was going on to this huge gate, and behind the gate was a huge house. This house was so big, there's no way in the world I could imagine this. And so what happened is that when I started walking on the ground and going towards this gate, this individual said to me, he says, you can't enter this gate yet. You enter this gate, I will have to kill you. And this was a pretty big guy, really big guy. And so I heard some noises inside the building behind the gate. Excuse me. The individual that was there at the front of the gate told me to hold up. He says, don't enter this gate yet. It is not your time. You do not want to enter this gate. So he went to go investigate what was going on, and he came back and he still saw me there. He says, I see you're a man who really pays close attention. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to know of you, and I thank you for listening to my words. He says, and he looked at me. He says, this is not your destiny yet. This will be your destiny, but this is not your destiny yet. He says, so you have to leave. And that's where the dream ended.